Welcome to the Dumpster Fire Project, a podcast that memorializes the fantastic and oftentimes catastrophic entrepreneurial journey of two unremarkable middle-aged men.
Boy, do we have a hot one for you today. I don't think the flames have ever been higher here in the Dumpster Fire. We were testing a new recording medium and ran into some technical difficulties. But if nothing else, we show you how to roll with the punches and laugh it off. But on to our guest, Colin Vestrand, owner of Greenglass Coffee here in Paw Paw, Michigan, where the beans are responsibly sourced and expertly roasted. So let's get started.
Welcome back, everybody, to episode 7. We are still on the air. Tonight we got a really cool episode. I'm going to turn it over to Murray and let him introduce our guest. Murray.
Yeah, so tonight's guest is a really close friend of mine. He's been in some of the bands I've played in, but pertaining to this podcast, he's got a really great story. And I actually have a cup of what he makes right in front of me. He is a local coffee roaster. He's chased his dream. I mean, he dove in the deep end, so I'm really looking forward to hearing everything he has to share with us. So Colin Vestrand, how you doing?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, so Colin, we'll just let you give the audience a little bit of a background and we'll take it from there.
Sure, yeah. So where to begin? I guess my story is not too unlike a lot of people where, life just kind of rolls along. And for me, I got married pretty young, had kids fairly young. I was 23 when we had our first. And because of chasing musical dreams and aspirations, I really wasn't able to jump into, I guess, like the classic 4 years of college and then into a career. So I dragged out my college, and by the time I got done with it, I kind of realized like I didn't really know what I was doing or where I was headed. But
sure.
But I was totally like blessed. Like ended up with a really good career for a big bank. Delved into a little bit of legal work for the bank. Just mostly like boring stuff like decedent estates and trusts and stuff like that. But kind of the more it dragged on, the more I realized it wasn't what I wanted to do. And it wasn't really fulfilling anything except for that, biweekly paycheck. And kind of the more it dragged on, the more it ate away at me. And I'm always careful when I talk about this because, I don't want it to make it sound like I think anyone is defined by their job or their career, because that's definitely not the case at all. Sure. I always had this kind of burning desire to create and to share my creations with people, whether it was through the medium of music or cooking, this and that. And I don't know how much detail you want me to give, but I think the real turning point for me was like I got really deep into homebrewing beer and started entering some competitions and doing some circuits and stuff. And a buddy of mine who brewed with me was talking to me about starting a brewery. And at the time, the economy was just so bad. And so we scraped some ideas together and had a business plan, and we're looking at some options and whatnot, but nothing materialized. And just kind of became a pipe dream at that point. And so we put it on the back burner. And we all know what happened with craft beer in Michigan. It just exploded. And as the economy came back and craft beer was like the thing, right? So, on one hand, I felt like I kind of missed the boat, and on the other hand, it was like, I kind of thought I dodged a bullet, because it just would have been, years and years of just late nights and basically being probably a glorified bartender, at least with the business plan we had. Without a lot of investment backing, you need a ton of capital to do that sort of thing. But anyway, fast forward to 2017, 2018, and my wife and I were talking about starting a business in Pawpaw, where we live. We just moved here about 4.5 years ago, and we kind of circled back to that whole creative outlet and wanting to share, share whatever it is that I'm doing with people, whether it's music or what have you. And we were looking into coffee, specifically coffee roasting. And, I just didn't really know how I could parlay that into a career, but I had a lot of interest into it. And so we went and just kind of for fun, as a little anniversary outing, went to Minneapolis and got some training and kind of learned the very basics of the coffee industry and the roasting process and this and that. And it's just like the more people we talked to, the more time we spent thinking about this industry and in our community and what our giftings are and what the community needs are, it just really, really seemed like a good fit. So, when something's a good fit and you're putting a lot of time and effort into it, one of two things is going to happen. Either dominoes are going to start falling and it's going to work out, or there's going to be so many roadblocks that you have to look at it and say, no, this is not right. And so fortunately for us, the former happened and just all these dominoes started dropping, and one thing led to another, and we scraped some money together, and I quit my job all within a span of like 3 months, which maybe seems a little reckless looking back, but at the same time, the job didn't really hold a lot of weight with me. It was kind of thing where it was like, money is not a motivator for me. And I feel like without realizing your passions, you can't find your purpose. And, so anyway, we got this whole thing together, and September of 2018 opened Greenglass Coffee Company, which instead of just being a roasting gig, we decided to get a space where we could really have a community meeting space and a coffee shop and, do some training demos or what have you. So we've kind of been taking opportunities as they come and sourcing the best coffees we can and working on relationships all across the globe, just to bring it to our little small community here. And so far it's been working out, up until recently with this whole lockdown thing, but yeah.
And we'll get into that in a little bit, but an interesting thing for the listeners to understand is Colin and I, we definitely took different paths, but we took the jump at the same time, and we hadn't really told each other yet. So it was one of those things like, wait, you're doing what? You're doing it too? So it was almost like we unintentionally had some kind of accountability partner, just to kick ideas off of and talk about the struggles and challenges. So that was really cool. And I fully recognize you took a much bigger leap than I did, and to watch it turn into what it has. And it's just been really cool. So it was nice to have somebody else there along this journey. And then, Eric came along. There's more people joining this group now, but we're starting to build up a little community here that can support one another. And that's very critical. But I did have a question, because you did this and you had mentioned that you had went on an anniversary trip. That's something we haven't talked about yet. How did you approach this with your wife and just talk it through? I mean, saying, hey, I'm just going to quit my good paying job and go for it. How do you approach that? How did that go?
Well, it's the kind of thing where it was one of those full circle kind of things, because when we got married, she was working for, she's a hairdresser. So she was working for someone else, and she didn't really enjoy it, and she wasn't making a ton of money. And so I just encouraged her, if you don't enjoy it, but you enjoy what you do, then maybe start your own salon. So she did. She started a salon called Blue Avenue in Portage, which is where we lived at the time. And she and her partner, they did great for over 10 years. And it was just kind of one of those things where once she had the freedom to do things how she wanted to do and to invest money where she wanted to invest it, and, really treat her clients the way she would want to be treated herself, it took her career to the next level. And I'm not talking accomplishments or money necessarily, but just from a level of satisfaction, a level of expertise. And so that kind of stuck with both of us, that whatever your situation is, you don't have to just keep doing the same thing. You don't have to just wait for an opportunity to come along. You could take a little bit of a chance, and you can roll the dice and just use your own moxie and your own skill set to, I guess, create what you want and what really scratches an itch for what drives you. So, when we moved to Pawpaw, it was on both of our minds that we wanted to get a business going, because one, we didn't know anyone, and two, it's a very small town, and we just felt like, as outsiders in kind of an up and coming but not totally realized downtown, it kind of felt like number one, we could meet some people, and number two, there was kind of a need for like some fresh blood, some new ideas. And so it was really just like, it was always a situation where both of us wanted it. Both of us wanted to get a business going, and because of her obligations that she has elsewhere, a lot of it was going to fall on me in terms of the day-to-day stuff. But, big picture, like, we both want the same things. We both came up with the plan. We're both on board with me leaving my job. So yeah, it was definitely like a husband-wife duo tag team kind of deal.
Nice. That's awesome.
Let me throw something in there at you, Colin. Following up a little bit with what Murray said there, I find it fascinating and awesome that you said in the span of about 3 months, you had made the decision to start this business and quit your job and just go full in on it. And that's one of the ideas that we're really talking about on here. Murray and I still kind of have our foots dipped into the water, so I guess we're kind of hypocrites in a way because we keep talking about it. Mm-hmm. But we haven't. Neither one of us has decided that we can actually quit the day job and jump right in. Can you give us kind of some insight into your thought process? And it sounds like you discovered, like, hey, I have a good paying job, but I don't like what I do. I found something that I really enjoy. I'm passionate about it, and I'm just going to do it. And I don't give a hell what anybody says about it. Can you kind of give us some of your mindset of what you had when you made that decision?
Yeah, I mean, so there's always going to be hurdles in your way. If you're in the corporate world, you always got that other guy who's like a little more motivated, a little more of a butt kisser, whatever. And in the entrepreneur world, really the biggest roadblock you have is yourself. It's, if you have an idea and you have a market for it, then I think really anybody can find the means to get going what they want to get going. I mean, timing has to line up, which was a big thing. Like I said, with the whole brewery thing, the timing just wasn't right. But aside from everything aligning, it's, I don't know. As far as the mindset goes, we just felt like whatever happened, we're going to put family first. So it wasn't going to mess that up. We're going to make sure we made the house payment, kept the lights on, yeah. So if you got a roof over your head, you got the lights on, you got lots of love in the family. I mean, how bad can things really get,
Yeah, it's cool too. I think, like you said it best, that a lot of people create roadblocks for themselves. And you were in a situation that you said where you were married, you had children, and even though you may be looking at taking a reduced income, you were able to talk with your wife about it and figure out a way that you guys could live, even though you probably had to make some sacrifices. But ultimately, the discussion, I imagine, had to be that it's going to be a lot happier because we're doing something that we love. And even though we're getting that reduced paycheck, we still can make things work,
Yeah,
Exactly.
and not only that, but you took the time up front to make sure, hey, we're going to sit down, we're going to have this conversation, we're setting our scope, our road plan, whatever that looks like, so we know what our terms are. It's a lot easier to execute when you have that set in place. So yeah, I think you guys approached it really, really well.
Thanks. Appreciate that.
I need to get some more advice from you, because my wife's been really supportive of my idea on this, but I think she still kind of thinks that it's like a pipe dream, and she's cool with me, talking to Murray on this podcast in the bedroom. But
So, Eric,
I imagine that.
I'm sorry. I
Yeah,
didn't
go
mean to
ahead.
cut you off. I was just
No,
going to say,
go ahead.
what is your business dream or idea?
Well, that's a good question. I probably should mention that, huh? So I've been an attorney since 2010, and the majority of my career has been as a prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
And early on, I absolutely loved it, but it's kind of one of those stories of I suffered like severe burnout because for a number of reasons, but I just got really burnt out. And now I have a job where I work doing a little more civil stuff, and it's a little more calm. But what I found is I miss some of the things that I was passionate about as a prosecutor, like working with law enforcement and working within the law enforcement community. So I started a side company that provides training for prosecutors and law enforcement. And then I also kind of work in speaking, kind of like as a professional speaker, into the fold there. And I would eventually like to not practice law and do that full time. And that's been interesting to have conversations about, because I'll talk to my family and they're like, well, what did you go to law school for? What do you mean you don't want to practice law? Like it's kind of crazy, but for me, it's something that I really enjoy. And I think there is a market there for it. And I'm trying hard to make it work.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you bring up a good point. Like your family is always, they're always going to be your biggest supporter and your biggest critique, right? Like when we were, first of all, we put off announcing it to our family for a long time because we didn't want it to, every time we see a family member, a friend or whatever, have the same conversation of, oh, how's your business idea coming along? Blah, 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 And, and so when we did tell everyone, it was definitely 50-50. 50% were very supportive. And then the other half were like, I don't know, a coffee shop? Can you even make any money with a coffee shop? And it's like, well, I'm not starting a coffee shop. You don't even really, you're not listening to the the whole spiel. But to digress, yeah. What makes sense to your dream and your heart. And that's really the most important thing. So, in terms of, I guess if I had to give advice, it would just be, continually develop that idea and talk to as many people as possible, because you never know when you're just going to get that one person who gives you like that bit of advice that's going to be just a little over the tipping point from where you're at before.
Yeah, and
so
that's actually. Go ahead, Eric.
Oh, sorry, Marty, I mean to cut you off there really quick, and then I'll let you jump in. Just, did you have, Colin, any like negative people with negative comments, or did you have to figure out a way to kind of filter out people saying like, oh, that's never going to work, you're crazy, what are you leaving that job for? Did you have any of that? You have to figure out a way to kind of deal with that? Because I think that's a problem for a lot of people, is they worry about what other people are going to say.
Yeah. And, I think the main thing you got to realize is like most people that are going to voice negative comments really do have the best thoughts and intentions for you. And it's just this natural inclination, from what we've been programmed to believe in our society that, job security means a regular job working for somebody else in a corporate setting most of the time. And anything outside of that secure job is risky, and most people are risk averse, and that's totally fine. But it's just human nature to project your own worries and your own issues with people and their what they want to do. And so you just have to compartmentalize kind of, if your aunt who you've never talked to sends you a text and says, I'm really worried about this idea of you quitting your job, then you just have to say, okay, Auntie, I appreciate that. It's, they're just 90% of the time they're voicing their opinions because they have care and concern for you. And that's the way I look at it. And then.
Oh, here we go, Murray. We got our first technical difficulties.
All right. Yeah. Let's try and fill some dead air here. So,
well, we probably should mention, I should have said this at the beginning, but this is our first episode where we're trying a new format. So we're using Zencaster rather than Skype. I'm sure the listeners are going to notice right away that the audio is definitely a lot better, but we kind of lost Colin here for the moment. And
I feel like I might have
not
lost
really
you guys.
sure how to fix that. I guess, Colin, if you can hear us, just make sure your internet signal's good and keep trying.
Yeah, I'm texting him right now, but I can give a little bit of background on Colin while we're doing this. We've played in bands for a while. I remember he told me one time we were having tryouts and he wasn't even sure if he was going to come. He had heard some of the other stuff we had done. We had different singers, and he thought it was, he wasn't good enough or was nervous because he hasn't really been a front man. It was kind of a combination of a couple things, but when he got there, it was just like, it was a perfect fit. And we talk about that all the time because that's another one of those leaps of faith, or just, you got to just try, like just show up, go to the tryout. And even if you're nervous and you think it goes wrong, you don't necessarily know what the other guys are thinking. So, and
Colin, can you hear us? Sorry, Murray.
No, not yet. He said he's calling back in.
Murray, can you hear him? Because I can hear him on my end.
Oh, I can't. That's awesome. So
Colin, I can hear you, Colin. I can hear Murray, but Murray can't hear you, and apparently you can't hear Murray.
So I think you're the host. I'll try and see if I can call back in real quick.
Yeah, well, we're this is the dumpster fire for a reason. That's it's basically like watching a Lions game in here. Never know what's going to happen next.
Hopefully it ends better than a Lions game, I guess.
So I think Murray's going to try to log out and log back in, and we'll see what happens. So Colin, why don't you pick it up from you right when you kind of cut off? I think I'm not even sure where we were at, but
you're asking about any family and friends that might have been discouraged into the dream there.
Right. It sounds like you may have had some of that, but you had the way that you kind of dealt with it was, you think that they have good intentions and you really didn't let it affect you. You just kind of took it for what it was and you stayed focused on what you were doing.
Right. Yep. Because not all the advice you're going to get, or comments or whatever are going to be, constructive or even valid. So you just kind of have to go with your intuition for a lot of that stuff and realize that people are saying what they're saying because they care about you, in most instances. And then other instances, maybe people just honestly don't know what they're talking about. And that's okay too.
Yeah. Yeah. I can see, looks like Murray's trying to get back in here. It's with COVID-19, we're having to try all kinds of crazy stuff that I don't think anybody thought we would have to do. The fact that we're even attempting this podcast between New Mexico and Michigan is crazy. But I would say this has not been a good debut for our new system.
Yeah.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
I can hear you.
Nice. I'm back. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what happened to your voice again. You sound like you took some steroids while you were offline.
No, I got that warning signal again, so I don't know. The mic, it's like every other time I log on, so hopefully this turns out okay.
Well, I guess we'll find out.
Welcome to the Dumpster Fire Project. It's all up in flames today. Yeah. Oh, this is awesome.
Well,
okay.
I don't want to
try and reel it back in here.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is also, Colin's story is probably, he's the first guest that we've had on here. We've had some awesome stories so far, but Colin's the first guy that's really like stuck his neck out there and did it. So I feel like, I mean, we're actually talking to someone who's doing what we've been preaching on here. Yeah,
and so my next question actually relates to that. So because you took such a large leap, is the voice really that deep?
Oh my God. Oh, now the dogs are barking. Let it begin. Holy shit.
Oh, man. This is going to be like a blooper reel where you just can't pull it together for the rest of it.
Oh, my God.
Okay. Well,
I'm going to try.
I don't even know. Just
It's like that. What was that movie? He's like, dude, you took a dart to the jugular, man.
Yeah.
That's what he sounded
wasn't
like.
It like old school? Like,
yeah, old school.
You got a dart in your neck.
You got a dart in your neck.
I like you, man, but you're crazy. Oh, that's awesome. I really hope it comes out that way in the recording too then.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's try this. Okay. Because it was such a large leap, how did you find new networks? Like with Eric's speaking gig, it's pretty easy because he's still dealing with lawyers and still kind of in that legal realm. But, you know, you going from paralegal bank to coffee roasting, what was your process like?
Well, I just tried to find as many bankers that needed coffee as possible. Not really.
That's awesome.
No, I what do we do? So, number one, when we started out, we talked to industry people. In Minneapolis, we met with some coffee pros that work for Mill City, which is like a roaster manufacturer and also a coffee roasting company. And then we also talked to some professionals at Cafe Imports, which is one of the largest green coffee importers in the U.S. And then we also met other coffee industry entrepreneurs and wannabe entrepreneurs. And, you know, when we'd go to coffee shops and whatnot, we would, you know, try to get to know the owners or at least the baristas if the owners weren't there. So really, it wasn't necessarily about making connections, but just kind of seeing like what other people's experiences were. So even though we didn't know people in the industry like we do now, a couple of years later, we did have the kind of a short form viewpoint of what these people had gone through in their own journeys in the coffee industry. And, you know, the big thing with the coffee industry is it's such like a open and accepting place, which I think from what I hear, a lot of small business avenues are like that. A lot of people in craft beer talk about the craft beer industry being so accepting and people bouncing ideas off each other and really wanting everyone to succeed. And, you know, I know small business in general, like in our downtown area, all the businesses, even if they're competing businesses, technically, everyone wants everyone to succeed. So there's kind of always this open conversation about your pains and your gains and your wants and your needs. And so it's just a developing thing, you know, it's just, I guess, like a lot of things in life.
Nice. And I think Eric will appreciate this next question because he's going through it right now. And Colin, correct me if I'm wrong, but you were never heavy into social media, but clearly once you get into owning your own company, it's a great way to market and get out there. So step us through what that was like, getting up to speed with some of that, and maybe some of the best practices. Because like I said, Eric could use a little help right now as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So my last social media account prior to starting this business was a MySpace account, if that tells you anything. And,
Nice.
and even MySpace, I didn't make it till the end of that realm. So I've never had a Facebook account, never had Instagram, Twitter. Don't even get me started on like Snapchat or TikTok or any of those. So yeah, there was a learning curve there, but like for me personally, it was, can I use a computer and a device? Yes. Do I have some semblance of like, the visual aspect of things? Yes. Can I emulate what other people are doing? Yes. So, you just kind of work with what you've got. And I think really, if you look at businesses that are either in your industry segment or in another industry that kind of have a similar mindset to like how you want to portray your business and emulate that, then that's a good starting point. So for like Instagram, there was a few key restaurants and coffee shops and breweries and coffee roasters that I recognize, like, okay, these people, when they put something on Instagram, it's not annoying, it's not preachy, it's not too sales oriented, it's not too boring, it's not too over the top. It's just like, it kind of reflects who they are as people and as entrepreneurs. It gets their point across. And so I just kind of molded that to what message we wanted to convey, and kind of made a commitment of like what kind of images and what kind of content we wanted to put out and what kind of frequency we wanted to share with. And, sometimes you get off the mark, or maybe you don't share as much as you like, or maybe you're sharing too much, and you just kind of look at the trends, and you can kind of be intuitive to a lot of it. And then there's other, tools on Instagram and Facebook that kind of show you, who's on at what times and who your target markets are. There's just a lot out there, but everyone's business is different. So I can't really speak to, any industry specifics, but there are also companies out there that'll just straight up run it for you. And, I don't know what kind of budget that would eat up, but it could be a good solution too.
Yeah, and that's perfect little shout out. A couple episodes ago, we had Megan on, who does exactly that. So
there you go.
If anyone does need any help, listen to that episode. She's got some tips and tricks on there, and then she also provides that as a service.
Yeah, social media has been a struggle for me trying to get back into that. I'm like you, Colin. I had a Facebook account, but didn't really use it, for years. So Facebook, I kind of got the hang of that again pretty quickly. And then LinkedIn, I found out, was a whole different world. That's been kind of one of my best areas so far. And then I just started messing around with Instagram and even TikTok. And I'm just like, geez, this is crazy. Like, I tried to make some TikTok videos, and like the one that's got the most hits right now is a video of my poodle with running around the house with a sock in his mouth.
The dogs get it, man. I'll tell you what, Murray can tell you that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we are running up on time here. Clearly, we added some extra minutes of some technical issues.
I have no idea if it's even recording at this point.
Well, we'll figure it out. I know last time we had about 20 minutes. Now it says 10. We might have to stitch this together and make it work. But either way, it's been a blast. So, Colin, go ahead and let the listeners know where they can find you. Definitely get some orders online during the social distancing. But yeah, let them know where they can find you.
Yeah. Yep. Thanks. You can order coffee online at greenglasscoffee.com. And we have several different origins. They're all highly curated coffees. And mostly everything is roasted to bring out the character of the coffee. So you're not going to taste any bitterness. You're not going to taste roast flavors generally. It's just going to be super flavorful, usually fruit forward, because coffee is a fruit. And yeah. Get it while the getting's good. We got good prices. We got $6 flat rate shipping. Yeah, check us out on Instagram.
Yeah, and I can definitely vouch for that. I'm usually not very picky. One of the very few places I am a little snobbish is coffee. And Colin makes some of the best coffee I've ever had. And I'm not saying that just because he's my friend, but it's true. I mean, yeah, it's amazing. So definitely go out there and support him. And then once we do get back to normal, you also have a shop, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we got a full service coffee shop. We'll do it right. Lattes, cold brew, iced drinks, hot drinks, pour overs, you name it, we got it.
Awesome. So yeah, if you're ever in Paw Paw, Michigan, swing by and check out Colin and Greenglass Coffee.
Murray, did the coffee make your voice sound like that?
Yeah, that's what it was. I think I would need a pack of cigarettes and maybe.
It sounds like you need some coffee.
Yeah. So, oh man, this has been fun. I've had a blast. Colin, thanks so much for joining us. It really is an inspiring story. You've just went after it, and I'd love to see how everything's growing for you. So, best of luck. Everyone go out there, support Colin, support one another. Let's be kind to one another, and we'll get through this. So with that, Eric, I'll have you take us out.
All right. Well, Colin, can't thank you enough. I think your story is definitely inspirational, and I think a lot of people can learn and take some inspiration from what you did. So best of luck going forward. Everybody who listens to this, definitely check out his coffee and support him. We really appreciate you coming on here. So it's been glitch demons aside. I think we had a good time.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks. Bye.
Later.
See ya.
Thanks everyone for not touching that dial and turning us off. Congratulations. You made it to the end of the episode. We really do appreciate you as we work through some of the technical difficulties. But please go out, support our amazing guest, Colin. You can find him at greenglasscoffee.com. You can find Eric at tacticalattorney.com. And you can find myself at fullvolumesolutions.com. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next episode.
By the way, the reason that we lost it and we were laughing so hard is because even though the audio track didn't pick it up, as we were all monitoring it, Murray's voice
sounded just like this. It was hilarious.